Welcome to Overwhelmed to Overcomer podcast with coach, encourager, and strategist Anna McLaughlin. If you're a Christian woman who has big dreams rooted in an even bigger God, but most days those dreams feel completely out of reach, trust me, I get it. As a homeschooling mama of 4, entrepreneur, investor, and all around wearer of many hats, I am right there with you. And yet, the Lord invites us to live out our God given purpose now in the midst of the madness. So, let's explore together how we can know our calling and walk in it today with clarity, with courage, with each other. It's time for you to live the life you love and love the life you live. Let's do this thing.
Hello and welcome to this next episode of Overwhelmed to Overcomer. I have a special guest today. I'm really excited about this conversation. Of course, we had all the fun before we even started talking to you. I want to welcome Matt Morizio. Matt, thank you so much for being here.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Just if this conversation is half as good as what we just had before we recorded, I mean, it's going to be really good. I'm excited.
It's going to be great. Can you give my people just a little bit of information about who you are and what you do, Matt?
Yeah. In a nutshell, I'm a husband. I'm a father of 7 children, entrepreneur. I launched my own wealth management firm at 40 years old with 7 kids. I'm a former pro athlete, and I think probably the most important piece to it all is my faith is my foundation for all of it. So that's in a nutshell who I am.
Mm-hmm. And we're going to unpack. So, one of the things that we really lean into here at Overwhelmed to Overcomer is this idea of stewardship. And I think a place that's a little bit maybe undertended in when we look at like the whole person, especially in the world of women of faith, is financial stewardship. So, can you talk to me about what led you into really doing and helping others do financial stewardship for a career?
Yeah, what got me into this world as a financial advisor was actually this book. It was given to me by the founders of the old firm I used to work for. So, rewinding before that, I was in finance staffing, and my job was pure sales. I was just outbound all the time, making 100 cold calls a day and meeting 10 to 12 people in person per week. And those were just like the big mothership's KPIs. You know, like you have to hit these numbers, and if you hit these numbers, you still got a job, basically.
Yeah.
So I was hitting my numbers, and in one of those 12 in-person meetings per week, I met the founders of the old firm I worked for, and he actually, unplanned, unknown to me, in the coffee meeting, like I was just checking the box if I'm being real, but he said to me, "Hey, you would be awesome in wealth management. Have you ever considered that as a career?" And truthfully, I respectfully declined in the moment because I was, like I said, as a pro athlete, I was kind of courted by some financial advisors. I don't know how else to say it. It wasn't like they were really wooing me, but they wanted to try to get with me early because in the event I made the big leagues and made a whole bunch of money one day, that would be helpful for them.
Yes.
Joke's on them, I never made the big leagues, so that didn't work out. But between those experiences and the network as a finance staffer that I built of finance professionals, I really got to kind of see under the hood of the financial advising world.
Mhm.
And the reality was, like, if you told me to have each advisor that I met while I was an athlete give me their elevator pitch, 30 seconds, tell me what you do, and I had to assign whatever firm, bank, whoever they worked for, based off of what they did, I would not have been able to. Like they all sounded the same to me. So I felt very much like that financial advising world was a me too industry, basically like me more than the other guy. We all do it the same way, just like me. And in staffing, I was doing that. Like I was in 10 to 12 meetings per week trying to get the person across the table from me to like me more than the next staffing person that was probably coming in the meeting after me, you know? Because the reality was we weren't recruiting people any differently than the rest of the big recruiting firms out there. And I was tired of that. I did that for 4.5 years. I started an office in that. I had won top performer status in that. I was like good at it, but I'm like, this is not a career. I can't. It's like 12 job interviews a week.
Mm.
So I respectfully declined it at first because I wanted to bring to somebody. something that was unique, something that yes, they had to like me to sell for me to, sell to them because nobody buys from people they hate. But I wanted something in addition to just me. Um, and it was this book that he mailed to me called Dancing with the Analysts, written by Johnny Long, excuse me, written by David Malick. The main character is named Johnny Long. And I will even stop and say right here, if somebody wants a copy of this book, follow me on Instagram, send me a message, and I will send you. I have done this before. People have heard me on podcasts. They're like, can you send me that book? I will mail you a hard copy of that book because I
That's
read the
amazing.
book and it changed well, at the end of the day, it actually changed my life, changed the trajectory of my entire future. I didn't know that in the moment. I just learned about this investment strategy as I'm reading it, and I'm like, wow, this is not what I'm used to. Like, this actually has some meat behind it. So I'm reading this book and I'm reading it thinking like, wow, this investment strategy is different. Like, I've not heard this before, and I've met dozens, if not hundreds of advisors at this point. There's no mention of mutual funds or index funds or any, like, if this works and if this is what these guys really do, like, I might be able to stand behind this because all of a sudden, what I knew the industry to be, this middleman industry,
Mm-hmm.
and I live in this we live in this direct to consumer world where like Amazon ships to our door kind of thing. Like,
Yeah.
middlemen are getting eliminated left and right.
Mhm.
I'm reading this and realizing, hey, this strategy does not mean take somebody's money and ship it out to some fund managers who are going to manage it, and you're in the middle collecting a fee. You're actually doing the buying and selling on behalf of your client, which to me felt right. Now I had to
Yes.
figure out, does this actually work? And
Yeah.
so I leveraged my existing network to kind of like do this backdoor reference. Really, I was praying a ton about a career opportunity change at this point, and I didn't want this one. So I was actually meeting with the advisors in my network to try to find reasons to close this door, to be like, no, God, this is the wrong one, God.
Yeah.
But
Clearly. Clearly.
every time I did, he blew the door wide open because it exposed everything I knew to be true about the industry that I didn't like, which also highlighted how unique this really was. And here we are, like nearly a decade later. I've got my own firm now, a year and a half, running these same strategies. It feels more like a calling than a career. So I didn't know that this was the thing for me. God did. I was disobedient in that step. After I tried to be disobedient, I really did. I tried to close the door. But
Yes.
at the end of the day, I remember the conversation with my wife, like, I don't know, Addie, how else to say no to this. Like, I've tried it all. I really think that he's calling me to this, and I have no idea why, because I don't know a thing about investing besides this book.
Mm.
I have zero clients. Like, I don't know how this is going to work. We had
Wow.
4 kids at the time and quickly had our fifth right soon into that career.
Wow. Okay, so I want to underline one thing quickly that's a little bit of a sidebar, but it's a place
Sure.
that we land so often in Overwhelmed to Overcomer, which is this. I love how you described the Lord leading you into the calling, where it's like, I tried to shut the door, I tried to walk away, I tried to say
Yeah.
no, but you stayed in action, right? You stayed moving forward, and it
Yeah.
became abundantly clear. And so I just want to highlight for anyone, for this friend who's listening and going, I'm afraid I'm going to miss what he's leading me to. When we're at his feet, and belonging is such a big part of what we do here, we really endeavor to find our belonging in Christ. When we're at his feet, we can't miss it. We
Yeah.
just can't. So that's just a powerful testimony. I never want to
He
miss an
won't let you.
opportunity, right? To just let it preach. So, ooh, that's so good. Okay.
That's really good. Yeah, I actually will go as far as to say you'll know if you are in prayer and consistent communication with him and you understand on your heart what it is when he's talking to you. I'll go as far as to say it's actually disobedience to not take that step. When you know you're supposed to and you're scared to,
Yeah.
and you don't, that's actual disobedience. So I think the step is really scary to take.
Yeah.
But to me, it's scarier not to take it and to very clearly, even though nobody else knows except me, to disobey where I know God's leading me. That's more scary than anything else.
Yes, exactly. And we can so often be like worried that we're wrong. Or what if I'm not hearing him clearly? Or what if it's something different? No, like you in that still quiet moment, you actually do know. You know what it is.
Mm.
And we're just afraid.
Oh,
And and
I knew it. I knew it, but I tried to find logical reasons not to. Like, I'm not joking, about a half a dozen advisors to try to poke holes in this, to say this is not right. This is me trying to will myself to a new career. Like I actually was trying to not say yes.
Yes.
When all the while I knew in my heart, like, oh my gosh, God, I think you're leading me here.
Yeah.
And when he talks to me, I'm not going to say this to anybody else, but when he speaks to me, and not audibly, like I hear his voice, I just know on my heart, like when he's really calling me to something, it always, I'm not even going to say almost always, it always feels scary and I don't want to do it. And in my heart, I have a peace about knowing it's the right move.
Yes.
And I can't
Yes.
I can't blend those two any other way. Like
Yeah.
God, if it's fear, worry, anxiety, if it's not from him,
Yes.
and I don't have a fear, worry, anxiety about whether or not it's the right decision. The fear, worry, anxiety becomes after I think about, well, how's this all going to work out? Which is me taking control of the driver's seat. Like I'm taking the wheel again, which is exactly what I shouldn't do. I
Right.
don't have I have peace about knowing, oh my gosh, he's leading me here.
Yeah.
The fear comes into the, well, what if I fall, right? But
Yes.
if I just take the obedient step, I know every time, 100% time of the time so far, I've taken the step and he's caught me. And sometimes, like, I've fallen pretty far into the valley before I felt like I was caught, but he's with me the whole time.
Yeah.
It just, I know he doesn't, if I'm taking the obedient steps in fear, like understanding, okay, you're leading me. I know there's a piece about the decision being right. There's not a piece about what the future looks like, but I know you get
Yes.
that. Um, then I know he didn't lead me into it to fall on my face and have my own entire family's lives ruined. So I'm just waiting to see how it all plays out.
Oh, that's so good. And I love what you said too of like one of the things that we talk about in here about decision making is like we need to really look for where the fruits of the spirit are, right? You talked about that
Mm,
peace, right? So
mm,
where are we seeing that love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, self-control? Where are we seeing evidences of that? Step there,
yeah.
right? And that's part of how we can know it's him. And then, yes, if we start looking at the how instead of just the what, if we start looking 10 steps out instead of just one, then that's where we're, just like Peter, noticing the waves instead of the cross or instead of the Christ, right? And so
Yeah.
we really need to keep our gaze fixed on him. And I think it says in that passage where Peter's walking on water, he took his eyes off of Christ and looked at the waves, something
Mm,
along those lines, right? But it's like when we look at that, he noticed the wind and the waves and
yep.
that's when we start to sink. But it doesn't change the fact that we stepped out of the boat, and
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
something no one else did back
Mm,
then. So now we get to do it because we're in Him. Okay.
that's so good. I won't keep going there, but we could.
Oh, we could. That could be the whole conversation. But
Yeah.
I want to.
Yep. That's
Okay,
really
and
good.
I mean maybe we'll just talk again. That's all we'll do. We'll talk again.
Okay.
Okay. So take me. So talk to my person who's listening who's like I don't even know where we are right now. I know this is about money, but what does this mean? So I want to talk about okay, what is it? What's just a really um, kind of novice level overview of what a traditional financial advisor thing looks like, and then if we're looking at where do I even want to start here? Okay, so because here's what I want to do. I let's talk first about like take me here first and then we'll go
Hmm.
into like the what it often looks like and what you do that's different because I think it's really profound. Talk to me about why stewardship and money. Why do we even need to be having a conversation about stewardship and money, especially when most of my audience, if not everybody listening, is a woman, most are married. I know a lot of women who are like my husband handles the bank account. What's our place in all of this and how can we really step up and go, okay, I can help too.
Mm.
That was like 6 questions. Grab your favorite.
Yeah, you're right. Right. Um,
Why does stewardship matter in
yes,
money
I'm gonna
as a
start
believer? Start there.
there.
Lay the
Why
foundation.
stewardship and money? Well, I'm gonna answer it starting with a story, just from my own personal experience. I just feel like that's probably the healthiest place to come from is my truth, because I will share God's story in my life, and then I will allow people to kind of compare that and relate that to how he works in theirs. There was um, Well, shoot. When I was playing minor league baseball, I wasn't making even five figures a year. I was making less than $10,000, probably like $7,000 to $8,000 annually in 12 months. So I was, and if I want to rewind even farther back, like I used to get scolded if I didn't turn the heat down in my house when I left because I lived in Boston at the time and oil heat's expensive. Like if I didn't turn it down to 58 before I left for the day, if I was the last to leave the house, I heard about it. So money forever has been like you need you need to harness the skill and hone the skill of squeezing a nickel out of a quarter out of a nickel, excuse me. Like you need to understand how to penny pinch and hoard money and save because there's a limited amount of it and you should just feel lucky enough to have what you got. And that breeds fear and breeds worry. And I have lived with that worry and fear surrounding money my entire life, my entire childhood, adulthood, up until probably 8 years ago, until like 9 years ago, until I got into this industry and I learned the language of money. Really, it's like the best way I can compare it is if you were to take Spanish in school, you might understand, conceptualize how to put Spanish sentences together or maybe articulate some Spanish thoughts. But if you move to Spain, you're going to learn Spanish in a month because you need it to survive. So now I'm in the business of helping people with their money. And I'm living in fear of it and worry. And I didn't have the proper background. So, anybody listening, you don't need to have this pedigree of finance in your family's life to be able to be good with money. Okay, you've got all you need in the good book. That's the Bible's the best teacher anyway. So you are smart enough to know personal finances. Whoever's listening, don't worry, that's not over your head. Um, I'm in it now, trying to teach people how to use their money effectively while I have these like crazy worries and fears around my own money. And I'm living in this duality, and there's this tension inside me. And you couple that with me always wanting to tithe consistently because I know that it's part of who I am called to be, and worrying about not having enough to pay the bills, which realistically I didn't, and making all the excuses in the book to why God's going to understand. Like I don't need to tithe yet. I can't even buy groceries for my family. Like why he wouldn't want me to tithe.
Mm.
And now I'm living where money has this hold on me. I'm learning the language of money to teach people how it works while it still has its grips tightly on me until I made this decision. It was probably 2018 at the time. I made the decision to give 10%. I'm going to tithe.
Yes.
I'm tired. My entire life, if you look at my body of work, I've not been a fence rider. Like I chased this childhood dream since I was 6 of playing professional sports. That's like a point what zero whatever percent chance of actually making it.
Yeah.
And I said, screw it, I'm gonna go for it. I started a business at 40 years old with 7 children. Like I'm not a poster child for conformity. And if I do something, I go all in on it. Like I feel like if God's leading me somewhere, I am headfirst diving into this thing, except tithing and my money. I'm riding the fence between I'll give a little now and I won't. I'll give a little now and I won't. So I committed. And the only way for me to commit was to separate God's money from mine. And so I
Yes.
opened this separate bank account. We call it a blessing account, but it's where the tithe went. So it was out of my mind. It was literally for somebody else. And just that act alone was transformative on my relationship with money. And I won't get into that part right now because I do want to answer your stewardship question.
Hmm.
Um,
I think you're answering it though, Matt. This is
I'm
it,
getting there. I
right?
think
Like,
I will try to tie a bow on this here in a second.
yeah.
I
No, I
started to
see
do
it. I
that.
see it.
I
Mhm.
started to give that money. And here's the funny part. I started to give it away, and my financial picture personally, on paper, actually got significantly worse, not better. But my relationship toward it got significantly better. When I was making 8 grand a year as a minor leaguer, I had no debt to my name. I don't know how I did it, but no credit cards, no nothing. Like I was just living on couches and making it work, which you can do when you by yourself. You can't do that with a bunch of children.
Yes.
But
Hard.
here I am. What in my journey, it has gone like God has taken me through such a valley of needing to borrow my mom's credit card to buy groceries for to feed my kids. And I mean, there's a whole lot to unpack there emotionally about how difficult that season is, relationally with my wife, emotionally as a provider. But all the while, because I've started that tithe, that healthy stewardship with money, I was actually less worried about what the future looked like than I was making 8 grand a year with a better financial picture, because I lived every day stressed. So why should you care about stewardship? It's because God will do more for you with 90% with his 90% or your 90% than you could do with your 100%.
Yes.
Stewardship is a biblical calling. And you can argue if 10% is the right number, if that's what the Bible says, if you don't. The act of setting aside money on a consistent, disciplined basis for God and for his calling in your life for other people was the transformative part. I don't know that the 10% number was the thing that transformed it. It was the act of doing it. So like stewardship changed my relationship with money. And as my relationship with money changed, final point, my entire life has changed because I have less worry and anxiety in the back of my mind when I'm sitting playing cards with my kids, or my daughter's telling me this story that I don't even know what she's talking about, but she's so excited about it at 4 years old that I'm listening.
Yes.
My mind isn't wandering and worrying about the bills, about the things, because I've given it all to him. I am
Yes.
firmly in the passenger seat. So he's going to handle tomorrow when tomorrow comes. And like I'm able to live that because of the stewardship, not because
Hmm.
I'm willing myself to be a better, more stronger, mentally tough person.
Yeah. And it's so interesting. I think we do this in many different areas, but definitely not least of them money, is we have this sense of like, well, once I get it together, once the bank account hits this level, once we get this card paid off, once we get
Mm.
this project dealt with, once our marriage is in a better shape, then we'll tithe. And I remember when I was a lawyer, I had the best time tithing because, there's just always money coming out of your ears. And so it was just like awesome. I was like, here's another couple grand for this guy. And here's someone needs something over here. And here's this
I
20
know
bucks
that.
right
I
here.
paid some attorney fees. I'm like, how do you need more money? What did you do? What did you do this past month?
Uh-huh.
Anyway,
Uh-huh. Yep, exactly. And so it was so fun. And then my husband and I got married and I left law. And there was a season where it was like, well, we just can't. We just can't right now.
yeah.
And one day, and it was interesting because for me, it had always been a part of my life. And then for my husband, he kind of, went back to school and lived with his parents for a while and had all these things where it just felt like if I'm going to provide for this family now, well, I just can't. And we did reach a point, and I'll share this because as a woman, I think it's an interesting perspective. And if you have any insights to share, as a husband on the other side of things, I'd love to hear them.
Hmm.
But there came a point where I looked at him, I said, I feel greedy and I can't stand it anymore. And what I needed to learn, and this is something that there's an episode called Hierarchy of Covenants for anybody who needs to hear of just this. How do I, as a wife, honor my husband and heed the Lord's calling? And it is,
Mm.
well, that's the Lord is my highest covenant
Hmm.
relationship. And so it took me looking at my husband and saying, I'm not doing this anymore. We have to tithe. Like
Hmm.
it needs to be set. And his heart was to take care of me, right? And so he
Hmm.
was struggling with like I want to provide for her, and so I want to provide for my children. I want to make sure they're okay. Beautiful heart. It took me saying I'd rather have 90% or
Hmm.
less or whatever, and feel like we're in order. And he needed me to say that. And then when I did, I said line in the sand. I feel really strongly about this. And PS, I'll be more mindful of my spending and I'll make sure that we're eating on a leaner grocery budget. Like you're not alone. I'm not just leaving you, right? Because when he
Yep.
was doing a lot more of and we're in a season again, he's doing a lot more of the financial, like he's the one that's working. And so um, having my not only support, but kind of like determination was the key in the lock that he needed. And now it's a part of our rhythm. And it just shifts that whole atmosphere where it's like, there's something about having that. I love that you have that blessing fund, just this pot of money. Like
Hmm.
yesterday, I was like, hey, there's someone that's really in need. Can we put our tithe there? It's like, yeah, sure. It's like free money, right? It's just so fun. Who needs
Yes.
it, Lord? Who needs it? And it
Yes.
creates that abundance where there's just
So
this
good.
feeling of there's enough and more than enough.
So good.
Yeah.
Yes.
Would you add anything as the husband? to any wives that are in this position of like, we're just not quite on the same page. I want to, he doesn't, or like, I'm scared he's not, anything that you would add from your perspective?
I think that you have to come to an agreement, and what we've talked about, that's easy to say, harder to do potentially. But what we've talked about is that communication has been open throughout on your side and my side. Like my wife and I, even though it was on my heart, I talked to her about it, and she trusted me. Like there are parts of a relationship where you have to trust how God's speaking to your spouse, and then drop your ego to say, who am I to step between you and Jesus? Like that is, and that's how we spend our conversations a lot of the time, is like, are you praying about this? Are you hearing from God? And if she says, yeah, I really feel like he's strongly leading me in this direction, then I'm like, then it doesn't matter what I think. Then I'm on board, and this is how this goes. And we actually have that rule that we've put in place for our blessing account, where it's like, if you feel called to use that money, not because you're selfish, but because like God's calling you to use it on somebody, whatever that looks like, we cannot say no to that. We won't say. That's not even like we made the line to say no. It's really about like, if you're in communication with God and his calling on your life. We got married because our dreams are now each other's dreams. Like your dreams are mine, mine are yours. And if God's moving you in a direction, then I fully support it. And I'm not going to step between that, because I've tried to drive the bus, and it always crashes eventually. It might take 20 years, but it does.
It
So
does.
that's to me the healthy level of communication, is to know, are you praying about it? Are you feeling God's leading you? Then I'm dropping I'm dropping any of my opinions, because my opinion doesn't matter at this point. If really God's leading you, I support it.
I love that. I love that. That's so good. And I really think too, there's it's part of that becoming one, where there's this sense of, okay, like we've agreed that we're on the same path, no matter how hard it is, no matter how Joyce Meyer had a line where she's like, the one part sounds great, it's the becoming where things get kind of tricky.
That's so good. Yeah.
And
Yes.
when Brian and I were getting married, our pastors that married us was a husband and wife team, and they talked about the different C's that get in the way of like unity, and one of them was cash. And I think that
Hmm.
sometimes as believers we like to think, oh, we're above money, we're like in the spirit, and it's just like at the end of the day, what do we fight about? It's like our stuff, our kids, our in-laws, our bills, our romantic life, and it's just these are
Yep.
the things that are hard. And so one of the things that really got me excited about this conversation, Matt, is I think that money's this kind of dirty little secret in the church, where it's just like, you know, I heard a pastor say once, if every believer were tithing, there would be no poverty and, just orphans and destitution.
Yep.
It's like it gets fixed because there's more
Yep.
than enough.
Yep.
And we have this silent shame where, whether it's we have credit card debt, or we aren't tithing, or we don't have a retirement plan, this is it's we don't talk about it because
Hmm.
it's, I don't know. Why don't we talk about it? What do you think it is that keeps us from really bringing these things to the light and saying, I don't really know how to take care of our future?
I mean, society has made money taboo. So we are not allowed to speak about it. And so we're conditioned not to, like, you just don't speak about those things in public. And because you don't speak about them in public, you rarely speak about them in private, because society says it's taboo to talk about. And that's really at the root of what I'm after for people, is to change their relationship with money through communication. Really, like, if we don't talk about it, we're going to inherit whatever our parents' relationship with finances was. You heard mine, it was full of worry and fear and scarcity. And that's because she got it from her parents. My mom got it from her parents, who are products of Great Depression era families. Like, that's where this stuff is coming from. And until somebody in that lineage decides, like, hold up, I'm going to take the reins on this and figure this thing out, and we're going to talk about it, and we will change how future Maurizios see finances, see money. use it as a tool, like use it to serve others in a powerful, positive way. But until I've been immersed in this world of finance, I probably would have perpetuated the same problem because I didn't talk about it. And there's real power in speaking about it and deciding you're going to be that generational chain breaker. And I'm after that for everybody because I've seen it in my own life where my relationship with money has changed, my entire life has changed, and I know my kids' lives will be changed. That if I can do that in other family trees, like what does 3 generations from today look like? Like the impact that I'm making has potentially an unquantifiable ripple effect for the kingdom. And I think that's really, really powerful. So that's what I'm after. But I think we don't talk about it because society says not to. So we just don't. And we're expected to somehow understand taxes and investing and debt and retirement plans and all the things when we start earning money at like 20, whatever.
Yes.
Magically. I think magic is the answer.
Magic. Yeah, exactly. It's just going to happen. Well,
Yeah.
there's this other piece too that's like kind of the suffering servant. This idea of, well, we're poor because I'm doing kingdom work. Can you talk to me about that story?
Yeah. Yeah. Mother Teresa was poor. I mean, her, meaning like she didn't have fat bank accounts. But people flew Mother Teresa around on private jets to go accomplish her work. Like she didn't live a poor life. She lived richly. She just decided I don't need the money to do it. But other people came to her for the financial side of it for her to change millions of lives. Churches need money to run. I think it's a cop out, if I'm going to be real with you, that I need to stay poor and because it keeps me humble because Jesus would rather me be poor. And I'm here to say, like, I think he created us all uniquely. I mean, I know he created us all uniquely. The Bible says it. And I believe that we're all put on this earth to do something great with our lives, whatever that looks like. And it can be really big, really narrow focused. I mean, I don't want to use the words big and small necessarily because it's all relative. But I think that if he's done that and created you in such a way to change futures or to really significantly impact the world for him, for his kingdom, you can't do that and live in this worry, lack, feared state your entire life.
Yeah.
It's just biologically impossible to live in stress and anxiety and worry around getting your bills paid and abundantly give and serve the way he called us to live, give and serve. If
Yes.
you
Yes.
follow and study the life of Jesus, there was no shortage of places for him to stay. And of course, he could make the food. Like, I get it. But people were willing to, I mean, there was people wanting to kill him, but also he had his needs met. Like,
Oh, yeah.
there's nowhere in the Bible where Jesus sat and worried about where his next meal was coming from.
Yeah. Yeah. He
And,
just went
and that,
and sent Peter out to fish. There's a coin in there, or whoever. I forget
yes.
which
And
disciple it was.
right, and we can't tell people to cast the nets on the other side and have tons of fish. Like it doesn't work like that in our life. We can't just like plant a money tree in the backyard and be like, I'm good. But I think understanding his leadership and how he led, you see he could not have done or did not do and modeled how we should lead. He did not model a spirit of anxiety, a spirit of fear, a spirit of lack.
Yeah.
So therefore we should not live in that same spirit. And really today money is that foundation. That's that engine that will support that calling.
Yes.
Just because of the society we live in. Back in the day, it was cattle and land and salt and gold. Today, it's the actual dollar. But like, you need needs met so that you can be who he created you to be. That's my end point there.
Hey, Mama, let me ask you a question. When's the last time you gave yourself some white space? I am not talking about a trip to the bathroom alone or even the grocery store. When's the last time you had what I like to call some no one needs me time? For homeschooling entrepreneurs, time like this isn't a luxury. It's actually a key component to a healthy business, homeschool, and family life. So, if you're ready for your next respite, whether it's you by yourself, you and your spouse, or a family trip, join us at our peaceful haven, Just Like Paradise, located on gorgeous Oak Island, North Carolina. This 3-bedroom house is just a short walk to the ocean and nearby restaurants. It has a screened-in back porch with fireplace that is to die for, hot tub, and even a fire pit if you're feeling ambitious. Book through the link in the show notes, and then you have a unique discount code, podcast 100 to get a $100 discount on your stay as a thank you for being one of my listeners. Get your next getaway on the calendar today.
So there's this guy in the 1800s named George Mueller, and he basically eradicated the orphan crisis in Great Britain just by first praying about, Lord, where do you want me to go? And then the Lord led him to open an orphanage. And when he died, he owned 80 pounds worth of furniture. Like, so basically at that time, probably worth whatever, $200-300 today. That was all he owned. But millions and millions of pounds had passed through his hands over the course of his lifetime serving these orphans. And
Beautiful.
that's what comes to mind when you're talking.
Beautiful.
It's just that picture of like, it's not about how much is in the bank account. It's about how much do we feel that we are God's son, God's daughter.
Yeah.
How deeply do we feel? It doesn't matter. Like for my kids, it doesn't matter what's in their pocketbook. Mom and dad have got it,
Right.
And we actually talk about money quite a bit in our family because I
Beautiful.
want to, and I love what you said of like, it's communication. It's just
Yes.
bringing, we all have these wounds that just get covered over, these generational wounds that get covered over and they fester. And you're just talking
Yes.
about just take the cover off and let it
Yeah.
air. And that's how we start, right? So it's like
It's great.
giving. I hear you say giving. We start with our tithe and communication. And maybe communication might need to come first, depending on how possible it even feels to step into tithing. Just say,
Mm-hmm.
okay, I'm just going to air the wound. And I'm just going to say, because what happened, what preceded that conversation, and I forgot about it until you said it. What preceded that conversation with me and Brian, where I said, I can't do this anymore, is I started to get really honest about the fact that we weren't currently tithing. I talked to
Mm-hmm.
my friends, I talked to my spiritual mentors, and by airing it, and that's one of the things that's a value in our family is like if I'm feeling a certain kind of way and I grab a carton of ice cream and I'm like, I don't think that I really just want to do this right now, then I just tell my husband I'm emotionally eating, I'm buffering, and I'm eating my feelings right now. And he's
That
like,
is too
okay.
good. That is awesome. So good.
Right, I'm just gonna tell the truth on myself, and it just keeps it from getting to be, it keeps it from having a stronghold in my life.
So good. You're right.
So I love what you said about communication. And so, but it's like my kids, sometimes my son will ask after we buy groceries, how much money is left now, Mom? How much money is
Yep.
left? I'm like,
Yep.
bunches of money.
Yeah. Loads.
All the
Enough for
money.
way more groceries.
Yeah, exactly. That $50 did not really make a dent. We're okay.
That's awesome. I love it. I love it.
Yeah, even when I'm sitting there going like, yeah, that was more than I wanted to spend. It's okay.
For sure.
Bunches is left because Mom and Dad have got it, right? We've got
Yeah.
it.
You're
And
communicating abundance to him.
exactly. And so too, like, friend, if you're feeling a certain kind of way, your father's got it. He's got the cattle on 1,000 hills, and he's got all that there is, but it's that whole like, if we hold our purse strings tight, we'll believe that there's no more to come.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so I love what you're talking about, Matt, of like, let's air out the conversation a bit. Let's start um, telling the truth about how we really feel about what's in our bank account, what's not, our prospects, and, it just give it some room to breathe.
Yeah.
And what I love too is it's not about like, how much do I hold? Because I had a friend of mine said this to me one time. It was really transformative. She said, who better to hold the purse strings than the children of God?
Hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm.
what if the people of God really leaned into this thing and said, okay, I'm going to go out and I'm going to serve and I'm going to love and I'm going to bless as abundantly as possible. I'm
Hmm.
going to trust that the Lord's going to provide for my needs, and everything that comes through my hands, we catch some of it and the rest goes out to the kingdom.
Hmm.
Just what if, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
You have a thing on your website that kind of where I was like, I have to talk to this guy.
Okay. What
You
is
know
it?
what
I don't know what thing you're talking about.
Okay. You have a counter of
Oh, yes.
how much has been given. Can you talk about that? What sparked
Yeah.
that idea? It's so okay. So I'll let you tell what is on your website.
If you go to
And
my website, yeah, you'll see it right in the middle, reconstructingwealth.com. There is this like tracker, this counter that ticks up, and it's the total dollars given by members of the Reconstructing Wealth family for other people. It's just it's like a community generosity account is really what it is. And I had to, what's really funny is as I was launching and getting my site cleared and all this stuff through the multiple layers of compliance in my world, that ticker, and I don't think there's a like I don't think there's a I don't think Satan's not behind this. Like I don't
Yeah.
think there isn't an evil force that's working this angle. That was a major hang up. Like I battled on keeping that up there because the regulating bodies were like, why do you need that? What does that represent? What does it matter? Why do you need to show what people are giving? That how what are you implying by that? Like they had all the reasons to take it down. And at the end of the day, I was like, this is not your business. It's not your business model. It's not. I'm not promising anything that can't be. And I have an asterisk to describe what it represents, so it's clear. I'm going to run my business how I want to, so long as I'm within the rules of compliance. I should be allowed to have this. And finally, they
Yes.
let it go. But that was a multiple week, if not month long, hang up on keeping that. Yeah,
Wow.
and
Well,
it's
and
just
doesn't that
that.
tell you something, right?
Exactly, and I think there's a reason that that was trying to be taken down. And it's just that it's to inspire generosity, right? Like we don't talk about money. We really don't talk about when we're generous with it because that's ultra taboo. Like,
Yes.
oh, look at you talking about how good you are giving to people. And I am here to say, not everybody, like I'm not like the Bible tells us, you don't do it in public, you do it in private. But I am here to say that sometimes telling stories of generosity inspires more generosity.
Yes.
Like giving begets giving. It inspires other people to go do the same. And I have that little ticker tracker there to inspire people to say, holy smokes, like that's really cool to see that this guy who's supposed to like make sure everybody has enough of it in their own pockets is putting on display how much they're all giving away collectively instead. It
Yes.
kind of flips the advisory world on its head where like an advisor's job is to make sure you don't run out of money. You have enough money. You don't outlive your money. And instead I'm saying, look how much we as a family have given so far. And we're
Yes.
counting and it's going up.
Yes. Oh, yeah. I when I saw that, I was like, "Yep, we're talking to each other. Like this is
That's
it."
good.
Because it
I,
does, it just opens up it's like it doesn't matter where we put our money when we put well, sorry, let me say that a different way. It totally matters where we put our money from a place of like, are we giving? Are we sowing into the kingdom? But I
yeah,
think we think, well, if I give it away, I'll have less and I'll feel worse. And it's actually when we move our money, we
yeah.
start to see it come back in. But when we're stingy and closed and holding it so tight, right? What you said about squeezing what's the phrase? Squeeze a quarter out of a nickel?
That's what I was doing. Yeah.
Yeah, right? It's
Yeah.
like that's when we feel the scarcity, and it's the opposite of
Yeah.
what we think. Like we
Yeah.
need to
And
feel like there's enough and more than enough.
I feel like I have to, I feel like the Holy Spirit's putting it on my heart to share this part because it feels like there's maybe somebody listening who's like, yeah, it's easy for you to say you have 7 kids and seem to be doing fine. I started to give and tithe. And that's probably 8 years ago, um, 7, 8 years ago, something like that, where I started that consistently, discipline, doing it every paycheck. In that 7 or 8 years, we have been through the hardest financial times of our lives. The hardest. We had to borrow my mom's credit card to feed the family. Like the conversations alone about that, like with my wife, where she believed in me. She never lost that. But she asked me so many late nights, like, are we ever gonna get out of this? Like what is this the right move? Are we supposed to be doing this? Like, how long do we have to live like this? Like that fear and worry is real, even though I preach emotionally detaching from money. We have incurred and paid off over $300,000 worth of credit card debt in the name of launching this business and practice over the last 6 to 8 years, and feeding the family that God's provided, which has gone from 4 to 5 to 6 to now 7 children. And all of that to say, I'm not preaching from any mountaintop, and let my story be a testament to his provision because rewind back 7, 8 years, I had no idea how I would even be here. I lived in Boston. I didn't even live in Charleston, South Carolina, where I live now. And I will tell you that a whole separate story, but like God has showed up. I rang the doorbell of the house I live in, the hardest housing market ever to buy a house in. Like we just prayed and rang. God put it on our hearts to ring a doorbell. And boom! Now we're not even competing, and we're getting a house under asking for. They weren't even ready to sell. Actually, they
Wow.
had to rent back. Last Christmas, one of the relationships I've built since this move, all while paying off hundreds of thousands of dollars. I'm talking home refinances, um, selling all those savings I ever had, multiple cash out refinances, actually, selling a home to pay off debt. Like my primary home. I didn't have a second home, so don't misunderstand that. There have been real valley difficult financial decisions, yet I rang the doorbell and bought the house. A relationship that I've built, that I love this man. He bought me a truck last Christmas as a gift. Like there has been God's hand over all of this. So let my story be a testimony to his provision so long as you're obedient. I'm not saying be obedient and things get easier. Actually, they got really harder for me.
Yeah.
But I know he's leading the charge. So if you're fearful and know you're supposed to take the step, then you have to take the step in fear. It's that's courage. Courage
Yes.
isn't being unafraid. Courage is being afraid and taking that step that you're called to anyway.
Yes.
So I don't want it to sound like I've figured it out and life has been easy since I started tithing. It has gotten significantly harder, and I wouldn't change a thing.
Mm.
Because when I started tithing, I was living on his will, his plan, and fully surrendered my life and my hands to him.
Yes. Yes. Oh, I
I
just
felt like I needed to share that part.
you it was so good because you grazed it and I didn't dig then, but yes,
Yeah,
someone needed to hear that.
I think
And
so.
and I think too what's so powerful is everything you're sharing, it's like he met me there.
Mm-hmm.
He met me there. He met me there. And so too, and this is the thing that we don't often like to think about, talk about, know is out there, but it is. And if we don't talk about it, then people start to doubt when they step out. Is like one of the phrases we have in here is when the teacher becomes the student, like the very thing that you're called to bring others into and through this healthy relationship with money, you had to workshop it all the way down to the ground. You had to live it
Yeah.
in all of its facets. And
Yep.
and that's when we're called to leadership, it gets
Mm-hmm.
really ugly and really
Mm.
hard because we
Mm-hmm.
have to live it all the way through, and go, oh gosh, here's another story. Okay, here I am on my face. Okay, here's
Mm.
another humbling experience. And it
So
and
good.
the enemy wants to say, who do you think you are?
Amen. Mm.
You really
Yep.
think you can lead here? Just like
Yep.
you were saying at the beginning, here I'm having my own money stories and I'm supposed to be helping other people grow
Mm.
and serve as a wealth manager. That the enemy just kind of wants to camp out there and cause us to fear and doubt. But like it's almost like this we need to recognize this is confirmation. Like
Yeah.
the Lord's not going to let his servants out through in love. He's not going to let his servants have these strongholds that are just kind of whitewashed over.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah. That's the
ah,
truth.
so good.
Amen.
So good. So, listen, if that was for you and you're going to feel that like burning in your chest or you're going to feel
Yeah.
that lump in your throat, just
Yeah.
pause the podcast for a minute. We're not going anywhere and just sit before the Father and just
Mm.
feel the things.
Mm-hmm.
Feel it all the way through. He's got you. You're safe. He's going to lead you through this.
You will.
Okay. Okay. So, Matt. Ooh, I'm feeling it.
Mm.
He's
Holy
so
Spirit's
good.
in this.
I know. Thank you so much for being
Yeah.
willing to just like lift the curtain, just like you talked about.
Mm. There's another, I mean, I also feel like there's probably a listener out there who isn't making the money and who's maybe her husband is, or vice versa. Uh, and therefore feels like they don't have a role in speaking about finances. And I'm here to like squash that myth as quickly as possible and as firmly as possible because my wife feels it. Like that's again, like I speak from my own life experiences. And she often will say, like, I don't feel like I am qualified to make that decision because, like, you're making the money, not me. And I'm like, hang on, we got married, and that means it's all ours. It's not my job to earn and decide what to do with money, and your job to do kids, and I don't get to have a say in children, and you don't have a say in money. That would be a ridiculous relationship. You have very much a equal say in how everything's going to be spent and used and effectively stewarded. So anyone who feels like they're unqualified because they're not earning the income is that's again the enemy lying to you, because the enemy will take a what appears to be truth and make it like but it's really a lie, and make it a believable lie.
Hmm.
It's not
Yeah.
this flat out obvious lie that he tries to get you to believe. He gets you to try to believe what is maybe an inkling of a uncertainty in your heart, and then bend that truth to manipulate it into such a way that it's a believable lie. It's still a
Yes.
lie, and I tell my wife that all the time. Stop. Like, you are equal in this finances. Plus, you're raising how many kids, and we're not using daycare? That's multiple six-figure salary anyway. So, like,
Yeah.
let's
Yep.
just let's just actually call it what it is. Like, that actually is worth something.
Mm-hmm. Well, and one thing, and it's one, I feel like when you work for yourself, the kind of cause effect is a little bit closer, and so I get to see it, but I know it's true for everybody. Which when and I've talked about it a little bit in the podcast rooms, and so this is probably not a new story for anybody unless you're listening for the first time. It's like I've stepped down from working altogether for the first time in a really long time. I always had a part-time thing or a little gig,
Yep.
and so I had to reckon with that a lot of like, what's my worth and value now that there's no number attached? There was even just a little number, even if it was just a few $100 or
Mm,
$1,000 a month, still felt like something. And to lay it all the way down and say, okay, we're going to the bare studs, we're going to nothing, really brought some more identity stuff up for me.
mm,
And one of the things that I processed through with the coach that I work with and with my husband was just this you know, just a shifted belief, because we can kind of decide what stories we're going to tell ourselves, right? And so the
right.
story I'd been telling myself was, well, what worth am I now? You know, now I'm not doing anything to contribute.
Mm,
And missing all the because in my mind I was like, well, I was doing all these other things before. So now it's like what there was no I just took stuff away, I didn't add. And what I decided to look for was evidence that actually me being home was contributing. And as soon as I cracked the lid and started to look at that, lo and behold, what happens when I'm taking care of the morning routine instead of my husband? What happens when, because he was taking care of the morning routine and then going and working. He was trying to wrangle the kids and
yep.
then getting out the door. What
Yep.
happens when I'm fully present and creating an atmosphere of peace and joy and fun for our family? What happens when I'm actually going to the grocery store that's more affordable instead of the one that's 5 minutes away? And
Yep.
so starting to see, and because my husband works for himself, he trades, right? And
Yep.
if you look at month to month comparison, what do you know? The numbers start to shift now that I'm home and more present, creating that
Hmm.
environment for him where he feels like all I have to do is enjoy our family and go to work.
Yeah.
Enjoy and be present, serve, pray, love, and then I go and take care of the family by working. And so recognizing, that was something that was just a little um I needed to change the story before I could see the evidence and go, oh, okay, it helps actually. What do
Mm,
you know? It helps when mom's present, right? And
wow.
so whatever the season is, whether for the woman who's like, am I doing enough? Start just leave the door open a crack for that story of just I make a difference right here at home.
Yeah,
I
for
enable
sure.
my husband to go out with a clear, focused mind and feel able to provide well.
For sure.
So
So good.
okay, so I wanna wrap up here because I think this part is so important, Matt. Because there are people listening who are like, I want to take care of our family finances, but I'm not gonna. Yeah, I don't know what to do. I have this account that's sitting out there that's got a little bit of stock, or I want to put a little bit aside. Can you? We kind of touched. We were gonna go here before, and then we went in several different directions, which was so powerful. I feel like we've laid a nice thick foundation now. Talk
Yeah.
to me about how a typical financial advisor relationship often works and what you do that's different, because I'm really excited about what you do.
Okay. Well, and at its core, that's who I am. I'm an advisor. So like helping you figure out a plan for your money and invest accordingly is what I do, is what all the advisors, all 315,000 advisors in the country do. So that part is like a high level is the same. So if you need help with your money, that's what an advisor should be doing. Now, there's a million different ways to slice that. Typically, though, I will tell you, here's how a typical advisor relationship works is you meet with somebody. It's going to probably be somebody that your friend referred you to or your family member referred you to. Almost always, that's just how it's going to be. And you're going to sit down on blind trust of that person, that this is the person you want to meet with.
Mhm.
Yet you'll probably read like 15 reviews on $50 Amazon purchases to make sure you're not getting screwed. But you won't do a single lick of reviewing on this person. Um,
Because my neighbor likes him. That's
for
enough.
your entire life savings, right? That's the funny part of this whole
Yeah.
world, but it's the truth. That's typically how it works. And you sit down with that advisor and they ask you some questions about your risk tolerance and your goals, which are good questions. They shouldn't be overlooked. And you'll share that, and then they'll probably speak about their process with big words that go over your head that sound like they know what they're talking about. And you'll make a decision to say they sound like they know what they're talking about. So I'm going to work with them. At that point, they'll put your money in some allocation of funds, mutual funds, index funds, and there's going to be down to even a tenth of a percent. 70.1% of the money will be here, 12.2% of the money, which I don't know how anybody can specify life that much. My life is not that specific. I promise it varies every day. But um, they will then take that money of yours and put it appropriately in the mutual fund, which has its own fund manager who is charging their own fee and managing money on your behalf. And you'll have an online login. That advisor will charge a fee for that advice and that service. And they may or may not develop a full blown financial plan for you. Some do, some don't. But you'll probably leave that relationship there and maybe meet twice a year, once a year. And the conversation looks very similar. It's like, how are things? What are your plans for the future, for the next year? I'm going to tell you all the things about what's happened in the last year about your fund. That's going to sound over your head, but like I know what I'm talking about. And you're going to walk away scratching your head thinking like, I guess things are going good.
And there's a
Uh,
chart with a line, and we're
a lot
excited
of
about the
charts and
line.
lines and words and ticker symbols and things that make no sense and pie charts. And you're going to say, I don't know what's happening. I think it's good though. Seems like it's okay. And then you'll stuff that whatever they gave you into some drawer and revisit it in the next 12 months.
Yep.
And that's how it typically goes. And I just know that like I'm going to equate personal finance to personal health because to me they fall under the health umbrella, personal health umbrella.
Yes.
Financial health, physical health, emotional health, spiritual health. We will always put that stuff on the back burner to serve other people, especially moms. Like that's how women behave. They will take care of anybody else before themselves to the point where they are sick and everybody else is healthy. Like that's the truth. So financial health is no different, but if you think about like personal health and you hire a personal trainer, if that personal trainer gave you a 12-month program and said, here's all the exercises and here's what you do every week for 12 months, 1 year. Let's meet in a year and see how you did. The likelihood of you actually adhering and changing your life, like adhering to the program, changing your personal physical health is, I don't know, sub 5% probably. I mean, I made
Yep.
that number up, but it's very unlikely that you are going to stick to that plan. There's a small subset of people who are like, let's go, that's all I needed. Here I go, that are
Yep.
like ultra disciplined, ultra calculated with everything they do. The rest of us will be like, hey, this sounds good. And maybe for a month while we're fired up, like try to stick to it and then get confused and then worry about bugging their advisor or their coach, their strength coach, and not get back. And anyway, it doesn't work. I think it's a broken model.
Yep.
So for me, first off, I won't, when someone sits down with me, I will talk about life and goals and all the things, the same thing, but I'm going to get to the root of like what money means to you as it relates to what core values do you have in your life? And now let's line up your buying decisions with how God's wired you. Like, what's your calling? So if you value experiences and you're like, I don't know if I should spend this 5 grand on vacation because like I could probably put it away in my Roth and be doing so much better for me. I would say, well, one of your callings, your core values is experiences. Like that probably should be used, invested in your trip as opposed to
Yes.
your 401k. And that's okay. Like be free from worrying that you're derailing your financial future by going on a nice trip with your family. Like that's a so anyway, tying your money, use of money, investments, I'm going to call them, but it can be like an investment in a family trip, an investment in a dog, like not actual money making investments, but still valuable nonetheless. Like if they are tied to who you're created to be, you live in this alignment where you're like, I'm living my calling. And
Yes.
when you can use your money to live your calling, your life feels so much more congruent with who you're meant to be.
Yes.
Everything lines up and it doesn't feel disconnected. So I try to get there. Some people are more participatory than others. And the ones that are more
Shocking.
participatory usually feel like the results are better than the ones that don't. Kind of
Yes.
like those people who stick to the training plan see better
Yes.
results than the one who don't.
Yeah.
But the other piece is I will invest your money in individual stocks, not in funds. I'm not going to farm it out. And you are going to know why I bought what I bought, when I sold, why I sold it, when we reinvested that money, what did we buy and why did we buy that. And like this way you have total clarity on what's happening with your money without the responsibility of being the person to pull the levers and to make the decisions. But I
Yes.
think the clarity piece is super important. It's just like the trainer. If they tell you you should eat more broccoli, less candy bars, or more protein, let what if they can articulate to you why it's happening and what's happening inside you to say, if you eat this, this is the how your body composition changes, you're more likely to just stick to the plan. And you'll
Yes.
feel better about the decisions you're making because you understand the what's happening behind the scenes without having to be the one to come up with the diet plan. And
Hmm.
that's where
Yes.
people's sticking point is. The people I work with have these like growth minded callings and giftings, and typically it's in their business, in their entrepreneurship, or they're an athlete. And God's uniquely made them in a way to do something big in this world.
Yes.
And then they feel stupid because they make a bunch of money and they're like, I don't know what to do with this. And I should because I make a lot, I guess, apparently. Um, and the reality is like you are called and wired in such a way. So having an understanding of what's happening with your money, yet not needing to be the one to pull the strings,
Yeah.
like you said about your husband, like when you had that, when you understood your role in that story and how it freed him up, he
Yes.
was able to go do the thing he's gifted at doing
Mhm.
it with total freedom and actually greater success. Very similar is like when you understand what's happening with your money and you don't have to be the one to do it, but you
Mhm.
have clarity on it and you're close enough to it that it's in congruence with your life, you
Yes.
get to go do the things that you're called to do and actually do them better because there's a piece about your finances. So
Mm.
that's what I would say how I do it differently than a lot of people.
I love it. And I can really speak to this having been, having worked with several financial advisors over the years, that there is, there's the group of financial advisors who ultimately are selling a product like whole life insurance, variable universal life insurance. And those were tools that we tried and that we've decided to no longer have in our portfolio any longer. And I'm happy to, just message me if you want to find out the whole story behind it, but I won't go into it here. and and then there is the group that there's it's the charts, and it's the you know just like, hey, we're gonna just buy this chunk here and we buy it whenever we buy it, and it's all mutual funds, and look how pretty it looks. Well, we can do, and this is something Matt and I talked about before we started recording, well, we can do that on our own.
Mm-hmm.
And we
Mm-hmm.
can go on, we can buy the S&P 500 index fund, and for people who don't work with someone, that's
Mm-hmm.
a great solution. But if you're working with someone, what can they bring to the table that's a little bit different? And I love that
Mm-hmm.
you do individual stocks, that you have a reason for what you're getting for people. So I'm thinking through, and I'm just thinking of my, who might be listening, who's kind of going, oh, that's interesting. Either we're working with someone and it's the same old tired can thing, or we've never worked with anyone. I think one of the common questions is, do I have enough money to justify working with someone? What's your answer to that? Is there a
That's
threshold? Like what's the time? When do you call? When do you call you?
I love it. I really like that question. I really dislike how my industry has basically brainwashed people into believing they need a lot of money in order to work, to be qualified, to be good
Right.
enough to
Mhm.
work with somebody like me.
Yep.
Man, to put a dollar sign on somebody's forehead is just totally devaluing God's creation, if you ask me.
Right.
Therefore, I don't have a minimum threshold of investable assets to say you need to work, you need to have at least X dollars in order to be worth my time.
Right.
There is a business side to it. I get it, but like to say if you don't have that money, you're not worth me working with you is completely devaluing his creation. So I don't have a minimum for that reason, and I can't stand when advisors do have a minimum. So, no minimum. I would say it like this. We talked about this earlier. I didn't say it then, but it's a good time now to say it. Imagine being the person that says, I'm going to wait until I get in great shape before I start going to the gym.
Yeah.
It's like, that doesn't even make any sense. The gym is there to get in shape. How
Yes.
are you going to get in shape otherwise?
Mhm.
A lot of people think about that personally with their finances, though. They're like, I will go to talk to somebody who knows about money, like understands the language of finance, once I have a lot of money.
Yep.
I mean, it's not like I'm a genie and you work with me and I can make you a bunch of money. That's on you, like, and you're earning power. But the reality is, like, there are ways you can get helped today with $0 in your bank account. You know, the wealth comes after you live and step into this is a whole different conversation, but your wealth will come after you embody and understand that spirit and that presence of wealth without getting too emotional with it and too like metaphysical and all that.
Yep.
You don't have money and then become a wealthy person. Wealthy, financially speaking or otherwise, is from your emotional state of embodying like who God made you to be, and then you
Yes.
live into that calling. The same is true with your money. So you can have $0. Yeah, I heard Jesse Itzler. I don't know if you follow him on Instagram. His wife is Sarah Blakely. She created Spanx, and
Ah, yes.
he
Yes.
anyway, he back in his 20s when he started this private jet company with no money and never been on a private jet in his life, eventually sold it to NetJets and Warren Buffett. He would always tell his business partner, "Hey, we're millionaires. They just hadn't written us the check yet. They just haven't written us the check." And that's because he understood he was embodying the mindset and the behaviors of somebody with money, and then the money found him. And it's true, it works like that. It's the same reason why lottery winners 80% lose their earnings within 5 years, whatever that statistic
Yes.
is. It's
Yeah.
because they were not that mindset, they were not that person. And then, woof, this windfall of cash came, and they never took the time to actually become that person. So their body kind of like reverted back to what they were comfortable with and they knew.
Yes. Yeah. And here's what comes to my mind when you talk about I'm gonna wait to go to the gym until I'm already in shape. We're afraid, right? We don't want to
Yeah.
lift that curtain and reveal here's where I am. And we have a financial advisor that really
Yeah.
for us is just he's a sounding board because Brian actively manages all our stuff. And we meet
Yeah.
with him twice a year just to
Yes.
lift the curtain and say, here's where we are. And he says the same thing every time. I'm worried about your cash flow.
Yeah.
Because we
Yeah.
have these, a lot of our stuff's tied up in real estate, and I don't. And every time we get off the phone, I have to breathe and just go, okay. He's never failed us so far. We know where our work is. We get better every time we talk to him. But if we didn't talk to him, then we wouldn't have that accountability. We wouldn't have that check in. We wouldn't have that
Yeah.
lifting off the curtain, revealing, communicating, sharing our concerns, sharing our growth places. And so, what I'm gonna what I'm going to invite for you, friend who's listening, follow Matt on Instagram. And if you're feeling a certain kind of way right now where you're like, I don't know if we have enough, I don't know if I'm ready for this conversation, just send him a message. Is that the
Mm.
best thing to do, Matt? Just send you a message?
Yeah, send me a message, and I can even send you a course if you don't want to actually have a conversation. You just want to
Yes.
learn more. I think it's about a three video course, 8 minutes or so per video, and it's free. And if you send me a DM, it'll cost you an email address. That's about it. But it talks a lot about the mindset, the science behind the mindset, the actual nuts and bolts of personal finance, on transforming your relationship with money, understanding how the game of money works, and I'll send it to you. And then you can start there. You don't even have to start, because you're right, there is a lot of shame and guilt, unnecessarily, but there is, and anxiety around finances. And sometimes you might just need to break the ice with a video to warm up to somebody, to like
Yeah.
understand you're not crazy and understand nobody's where you might think they are. It's okay.
Yep.
Everybody starts somewhere.
Mm-hmm. Oh, I love this so much. So, Matt, I could keep talking to you all day, but I'll let you go about your morning and your 7
Same.
children and all the rest.
Same.
But tell me this, where tell my people before we get off the line, where can they find you? Where can they connect?
My website, reconstructingwealth.com, you can go find that ticker, that counter. It's there.
Love it.
And if you found it, you know you're on the right site. And Instagram is probably the most active spot for me. Just it's my name, at Matt Morizio. You'll get to know me. I share a lot of finance stuff. I also share a little bit of my own life, because I believe if somebody's going to work with me at one point, they're going to have to understand all of who I am, because I've had enough conversations that I realize people want to see some kind of a reflection of themselves across the table. So you'll learn what I stand for, who I am, and you'll get for sure, some knowledge on personal finance that you can take for yourself. You don't ever have to communicate with me, or you can. I'm going to be the one reading the DMs, sending the DMs. So don't think there's some bot or some other human behind it. It's me.
I love it. Matt, thank you so much. This has been such a gift.
Ah, thank you, Anna. I felt it. That was a really powerful conversation.
It really was. I'm so glad.
Thank you.
Okay. To you, friend, I want you to hear me. Don't just listen, take action. Okay.
Mm.
Do something for your sweet life today because of this conversation. Reach out to Matt, take his course, have a conversation. I love what Matt said about communication. And just tell the Lord, here's where I am today. Maybe it's not where I want it to be. Can you walk with me and lead me somewhere new? Okay?
Mm.
All right. Matt, thanks again.
Thank you. So good.
So good. And to you, friend, as always, remember, you've got this because he's got you. Okay?
Friend, thank you so much for listening to this most recent episode of Overwhelmed to Overcomer. So listen, the whole idea behind this mission is that when we endeavor to be brave with our lives, we need to do it together. Belonging is key. So if you resonated with the message from this episode, share it with a friend. Do it together. Thank you again, and never forget, you've got this because he's got you.